Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, hashtag ODPH podcast. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss in land of entertainment, so let's waste no more time. Hit us up on that hashtag to join in the conversation on social media, hashtag ODPH. Now we are going to kick off recapping this past week's Game of Thrones to kick off the show. Now, if you're not a fan of the show, Pat is going to put in the description of the show when to jump in and skip the segment. But if you've been following like us, we got a lot to discuss. We are talking spoilers. So in 3, 2, 1, Pat, what did you think?
Love the episode. I'm slightly angry at the writers of the episode for making it so like feel good and warm and happy and, you know, everything good and positive. Because I know next week's just going to put me in a puddling mess of emotions.
Right. As we are now facing the Battle of Winterfell, the big fight battle that has been building now for I don't know how many episodes.
It's been teased for a while.
This is going to be the end-all, be-all dramatic fight in this show that we have been waiting on. Many characters were expecting to get killed off. So now everybody is now at Winterfell. They're making their plan of attack. Jon Snow has just realized he is now the true heir to the throne.
And picking the worst time to tell Daenerys.
Yes. Obviously, going into their quote-unquote last night on Earth, a lot of them are thinking they decide to address it one of many different ways. Jon Snow decides to drop that bombshell on Daenerys.
Like 30 seconds before they start getting the horn, they're like, oh, hey, they're here.
Yeah. Perfect timing, if you will say. But, you know, this whole situation has now been haunting that group for a little bit.
I also get the feeling just based off of, like, how things play out and kind of how, like, the start of the episode, they're getting ready, but, like, they're not, you know, fire under their butt getting ready. I get the feeling that, like, they know they're coming, but they're coming faster than they anticipated.
Right, because once the wall has fallen and the Night King is progressing forward, they get reunited with some old friends from the Night's Watch.
Yep.
And they're now getting, you know, a true grasp of what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't know before.
Yeah.
But now it's like...
They'll say, because we knew from the first episode that they were aware that the wall had fallen. Well, then those remaining from the wall get down there and they're like, oh, yeah, hey, they're coming. The only reason we got here before them is we rode breakneck speed. And Jon says, oh, how soon are they going to be here? By tomorrow morning.
Right.
And he goes, oh, crap. And that's when, you know, DEFCON 1 start building the defenses.
Right, because at this point, Jon Snow and company have been trying to get as many forces as they can and a battle plan ready.
Yeah.
Because now they have no alternative.
We'll say, get a battle plan ready for force where they are hilariously outnumbered. I forget the exact numbers, but it's like, yeah, no, they're hilariously outnumbered.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be, you know, an underdog fight that we have not seen before.
I'll say, if you
put it mildly.
If you talk to anyone in the armed services, you know, about just the numbers that they're going up against, any person who's like a tactician or battle strategist for any sort of armed services will tell you, yeah, you're hilariously screwed.
Right, and they do find out that even if they do survive this, by any chance, Cersei is waiting with her army in the background because Jaime Lannister is finally addressing Daenerys, Sansa, and the council, I guess we can call them, of Winterfell, and obviously trying to establish, okay, this is what's going to happen, and he's now pledging his allegiance to fight for the living, and I think that's very telling, because obviously we saw in the previous episode, he finally runs into Bran, and obviously there's a lot of drama there.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, like seeing as the last time they saw each other, at least that I can remember, Jaime kind of pushed him out a window.
You're right. And obviously that kind of lingers, and I guess as the kids say, it's the things you do for love, huh? Tying back to the first episode. And now going into this, Jaime has really had people stand up for him, which I think is kind of going to the whole redemption storyline that he has going. Yeah. I mean, Tyrion, he obviously was stepping up for his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Brianna Tarth was the pushing point to get over there because Jaime was losing that battle. And Daenerys was very ready to
cut his head off right then and there.
Right, which, I mean, she has her reasons. And I can't argue that. But Jon Snow was saying, hey, we need everybody we can have.
So Jon, there again, thinking big picture.
Right. Jon is the only one that's really seeing the big picture and what's going on. And I think everybody is too caught up in their own who will rule mentality that they're not seeing it. And he's the only one. And he's saying, hey, I have to deal with this the best way I can. And obviously him, listening to Brienne and bringing Jaime into the fold definitely caused a rift between him and Daenerys.
Sure.
But overall, it's the right decision because they're in a losing battle. But if they have a chance to win, they're going to need Jaime.
Well, so admittedly, the Jaime of now is not the Jaime of old, where he's a master swordsman, a great tactician, just an overall, if it's Game 7 of the World Series, he's your ace starting pitcher. He might not be that anymore, but he's still very much a force and a tactician that, if I got him in-house, I want him.
Right. And obviously they need to do what they need to do because they don't have time for a plan C, a plan D. They have to go and really just dig into the ground and plant their flag and defend their turf. And they know that this is going to end badly.
Hold their ground and pray.
Well, exactly, because everybody has to deal with what's coming. And there is no escape from this. And as we see as the episode progresses, everybody is dealing with their last night on Earth, so to speak, in different ways.
Yeah.
Arya Stark had one of the more interesting ways.
Yeah.
Pat, you want to explain?
Yeah, so it was Robert Baratheon's bastard son, whose name is escaping me at the moment. He's been in the middle of building weapons, as he's been doing, since he got to Winterfell. She kind of approaches him and says, hey, listen, you need to build my weapon, and then going back and forth. And then later in the episode, he brings her weapon, and then she kind of says, oh, hey, it's our, potentially our last night here. I don't want to die a virgin. I want to know what it feels like. Let's go.
Yeah, Gendry and Arya.
Thank you.
You were, finally had their moment, which I know a lot of people were thrown off on the internet about.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of fan fiction that's been waiting to happen.
Right, and Maisie Williams did some interviews after the episode had aired, and when they initially went to read the script or shoot the episode, she thought it was a prank. She's like, wait, is this real?
Right. And obviously, she has been somebody that we've seen literally grow up on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 22 years old now.
Yeah.
So, and when she started, obviously was just a teenager. So now, to just go in perspective of the show, we've now seen her character fully grow. And where Arya is heading to, obviously, she is dealing with the situation differently. The Hound is dealing with this a very unique way. Just sitting there and just, reminiscing on the top of the wall and obviously...
Yep.
Getting prepared for what's happening. And then you flip to Tyrion and the group that is...
Let's say Tyrion's doing what he usually does.
Yes, drinking no things. And he's just sitting there and, obviously leading court, which is obviously what he does, being the hand of the king. And he's kind of had a little bit of a rough falling out with Daenerys because obviously when everybody was leaning towards bringing Jaime into the fold...
Yeah.
And Tyrion was one of the biggest cheerleaders.
Tyrion was very much put a lot of his chips into Jaime bringing some of his forces.
Right. That this is kind of thrown just a little, I don't want to say a wound into her armor, so to speak, but it kind of brought her down a little bit because it seems that her council is turning against her.
Yeah.
And they really weren't. But in her mind, obviously, dealing with the Jon Snow revelation and this is just... She is going into this one, I would say, probably one of the biggest wild cards because we don't know what she's going to do in this situation.
Yeah, because she's very much a person. If you think back to the previous seasons, anytime somebody who was a threat to her throne, she took him out.
Right.
She ran through them. Just look at the past episodes. All of a sudden, hey, it's not just, this is a threat to your throne. This guy takes your throne. He doesn't even have to do anything to you.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next episode involving her because obviously she has a lot to gain and a lot to lose.
Yeah.
More so than I think arguably anybody else on the show right now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because she is the one that is the mother of dragons. She's the one that's supposed to, be the one to unite the Seven Kingdoms.
She's got to play this very carefully because while she may want to get rid of Jon Snow, she's got to be careful how she does it because the North already doesn't trust her.
Right.
For anything. If she wants to get rid of Jon, she has to be very careful about how she does it because if she does it and it gets, tied back to her, they'll hate her for the rest of her life. They'll do anything they can to get rid of her. But, and this is just me speculating, but if it's something that like, oh, it's an accident, whoops, and it can't get tied to her, well, then that plays in her favor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with her. Most importantly, with everybody else in that fight.
I can see this being like a Mufasa Scar type situation from The Lion King, where like, you think back to Lion King where Mufasa needed help and Scar's like, nah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, because obviously if she plays this wrong, everything that she's done previously could go up in smoke.
And it won't just be the northern folks who hate her. I think some of her own, council, if you will turn against her.
Right, because, Tyrion is obviously watching from the sidelines, and he is a very good chess player at this, because he knows where his loyalties need to go, and he still has faith in Daenerys, but he also knows that obviously with Jaime now back in the fold, if push comes to shove, where is he going to line to?
Let's say this would also blow a hole in Tyrion's constant, she's not her father.
Right. So this is going to play a very, very big role going into the battle. And obviously leading into it, Tyrion is holding court, as we say. Probably one of the more interesting scenes.
It's an interesting cavalcade of folks.
Right, because you had Tyrion, you had Brienne of Tarth, Podrick, Davos, and Tormund, and Jaime Lannister all sitting, drinking wine, and reminiscing, so to speak.
I'll say drinking the Starks out of all their wine.
Right. And they're going into this knowing that, obviously, and we keep saying this could be their last night. And they know this. Obviously, the threat is that real. And you obviously see Jaime, who is a bit of a wild card in his own right, but he's also a shell of his former self.
Yeah.
And when he comes to Winterfell, rather, he's coming in, and Brienne of Tarth was almost like, why are you here? And he goes, I want you to train me to fight again. And almost like he needs to be rebuilt himself.
Well, that's something he kind of said from the moment he lost his hand and he got the golden one, that, that was his primary hand. That was the hand he used for sword fighting, and he's not the same fighter he was with his other hand. I think the most interesting thing out of that whole sequence of the people talking was probably Tyrion and Jaime having I think it was just the two of them, but it was before anybody else came in. And Tyrion brings up, how weird is it now that before we were fighting the Starks, and now here we are sitting in Winterfell ready to fight and die for them.
Yeah, it was an interesting take too. It's just proves that, enemy of my, or was it?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. It just goes to show on this show, that is definitely the case right now, because there's just an interesting mix of characters uniting.
Yeah.
And as we see, as the episode is progressing too, with the round table, shall we call it, of Tyrion and company, that Brienne of Tarth is now made a knight.
Yep.
By Jaime Lannister.
Right, because Tormund brings it up. It gets brought up at some point, about her knighthood, and she says, no, I'm not a knight. And Tormund goes, what? She goes, yeah, it's tradition. It's tradition that women aren't knighted. And Tormund basically says, fuck tradition. If I was an actual king down here, you'd be a knight in a second. And that's when it hits Jaime. Wait a minute. We don't need a king to knight you. We just need another knight.
Right. So this
was a long time coming, and I know a lot of people, this tugged at a lot of heartstrings online for folks, and it was very emotional for people, and I agree. This was awesome for her to see that, like, everything she's done and how honorable she's done, to the point of maybe it being a little at fault sometimes, but for her honor and everything, that she finally gets rewarded for it.
Yeah, it was one of the more interesting moments, and just for the fans too, and like we say, we've seen Brienne of Tarth just grow into one of the most noble characters on the show. And it's so like refreshing to see a character like that, because usually you just see every house plotting against each other.
Yeah.
And she just never wavers to who she pledges to. Never does.
No.
Until she's released to the duty, and then she goes somewhere else. So to see her finally become a knight, and it's this really emotional scene, one has to wonder, and maybe I've just seen too much Walking Dead, and I know I'm flipping script here for a bit. When everybody's having a happy ending or a happy moment, and obviously we know what's coming next, does this mean they don't make it through?
Well, for her, the one thing going against her is, at least from the preview we saw at the end of the episode, it does appear she's on the front line, because if you watch the preview, she does scream, hold the line.
Right.
So that's working against her.
Well, you would figure that now that she's a knight, and even before then she was going to be on the front line, you're going to have every notable fighter going in and holding the front line. Meanwhile, down in the crypts, you're going to have Tyrion.
Yep.
You're going to have Samwell Tarly.
Arya's going to be there.
Arya's going to be there. So it's going to be an interesting mix of people that are not involved directly to the fight.
Yeah.
But with the Night King coming, this is going to be a very interesting battle plan they have set up.
I think the interesting thing with this is going to be is when the one Greyjoy, I forget who it is, showed up and was like, hey, listen, my sister's going back to the Iron Islands to help you out. I wanted to be here and fight for you. I think, and I'm just speculating, I think she's going to show up maybe as a last minute. You know, obviously there will be death, obviously there will be destruction in Winterfell, get overrun. But I think she's going to swoop in at as a last minute. Hey, I'm here. I heard how bad things were getting, and here I'm here to save you.
Well, they're definitely going to need it. And obviously the former Reek.
Yep.
That, you know, he is now reunited with Sansa too, and that was another emotional moment of the show.
That was surprising too. Like I get she's happy to see him, but like as happy as she was, I was a little surprised.
Well, I think at this point, though, there's been so much time between characters
that
we just haven't seen.
Yeah.
I mean, with Theon.
Thank you.
Sees Sansa, and that's the first time in how long?
Yeah.
And obviously...
Well, since he broke her out of Winterfell.
Yeah. And, I mean, obviously dealing with Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah.
And that whole mess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a weird thing for us to see as fans because we're so used to seeing everybody via episode. The one thing, and this is not a knock on Game of Thrones, is they don't explain time jumps a lot.
Yeah.
But they don't have to. Like,
No.
it just kind of coincides. And as you see with the beginning of the show, they give you the map of where everybody's going, and it's easy to pick up on. So it's not like a whole deterrent.
Yeah.
But then going into the final battle here, everybody has their plan of attack, so to speak. Bran is trying to draw out the Night King, so...
This just seems like a horrible plan.
It does, but this goes back to my unofficial ODPH theory that he is the Night King.
Which, not a slight against him, Bran's not exactly the most mobile person in the world. I'm just going to sit here, draw him out, and hope that it works. Doesn't seem good.
That's why I say there's got to be something, obviously, when we became the Three-Eyed Raven, and there's something involving him and the Night King. And I'm not just saying that's just like, obviously my most powerful threat. There's something connecting them. That maybe that is Bran of, I don't know, the future or something.
Well, I think they said that and I could be wrong, correct us, hashtag ODPH. I think he said during the episode that, the Night King wants to take him out so that it's an everlasting night.
Yeah. So why would Bran be so important about that?
I think, because I think John pointed it out that they saw the evidence when they were north of the wall trying to bring back one of the zombies, for lack of a better term. And they took out one of the leaders, and the whole crew just now one of the big leaders. You know what? I think it was one of the big leaders. The whole crew just dropped. So ergo, Night King. If you think of like your royal family tree, you got the one at the top, and then it spreads down. You take out the one at the top, who created the ones underneath him, who then went and created the ones underneath them. Domino effect. So I get their plan that Bran's going to sit out in the open to draw out the Night King because the Night King wants him in the worst way possible. And you take out the Night King and that just domino affects everybody else. And hey, we win.
Yeah, this is an interesting plan they have to go to, and to the sounds of Podrick singing too.
I'll say it feels like half a plan.
It feels like half a plan, but with Podrick singing Jenny of Oldstone, which is referenced in the books many times, it's almost like a foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yeah.
So, obviously, this episode was very good. It definitely did a lot for the fans. Yeah, it was one of the best. And for the fans, it was a lot of payoff moments that were happening.
Yes.
So, before we close this segment out, Pat, do you have any predictions for the Battle of Winterfell for next week?
My prediction is I'm not ready mentally or emotionally for next week. Like, I'm going to be a puddle of mess because I'm not hugely attached to anybody. There are people I like. I like Jon Snow, and I'm Jon Snow's the one I really like. There are ones that like I would hate to see go and it'd be disappointing, but like it's going to be there's going to be a lot of people gone, and I feel like the quote unquote council might get halved.
I would have to agree. And this is Game of Thrones, so obviously they're not afraid to take out major characters at a drop of a dime.
No.
And this is the Battle of Winterfell. This has been building for how long now?
I'll say they've been hyping this as the longest battle committed to film in history, which, I mean, the current record holder is the theatrical, now I realize the extended editions are longer, but it's the theatrical release, I believe, of the Battle of Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, which is just over 40 minutes. Which of course depends on your perspective or opinion of when it starts, because it starts could start in a couple different places. But that's 40 minutes. This episode is 80, so they're doubling that.
Right. This is going to be 80 minutes of an epic fight battle.
To the death.
To the death. You're going to see characters get killed off.
Uh-huh.
You're going to see I'm going to say if this is episode 3, and there is, 6 episodes in this season, this is going to wipe out half your cast.
Probably. Thanos not included.
Yes. This is the part of the whole hashtag Endgame of Thrones that is going on, because obviously this is a big, big, big weekend for nerd, geek, pop culture, if you will.
Yeah.
So this is obviously going to be the end half of that, because obviously with Avengers Endgame coming out earlier.
Yeah.
But this is going to definitely almost rival it. I will say almost. Just for the sheer fact of you've been watching the show since day one. You read the books since day one. This is going to be the emotional impact that you might not be ready for.
No.
And I think that this is going to be tough if you're more of a mainstream fan like I am. Like, I never read the books, but I've watched the show since day one. This is going to be something when you start seeing major characters get killed off. Like, I think Brianna Tarth is going to unfortunately get killed off. I think Arya Stark is going to get killed off.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting Jaime Lannister gets killed off.
Could be.
And the Hound might get killed off. And I'll say either Daenerys or Tyrion gets killed off. I'm going to go out on that limb amongst major characters. This is one that when the fight happens, it's going to truly change the landscape of the show, for better or for worse. If the Night King wins and wipes out everybody, which would be one of the crazier moments on this show, let's just say the Night King just runs right through Team Snow.
I wouldn't want to see it, but on the flip side, I kind of would want to see it, because then Cersei would get her just desserts.
Oh, yeah. I want to see that battle.
Yeah.
Whatever happens with Cersei.
Oh, she'd get run the heck over.
Because I can't see possible reasons she would jump in this fight.
Oh, she's not going to.
Yeah, there's no way. So she's going to be on the sidelines.
She's hedging her bets that they're going to win. She's gone push all her chips into the all-in pile of they're going to win, and I'm just going to run through them because their forces are going to be decimated. She's banking on this to the point where she's not even considering any other possibilities.
Yeah, she's all in that Team Snow is going to win, which I don't understand. And because she's not taking the Night King seriously.
No.
And that is going to come back to haunt her in the worst way possible. Which I can't wait to see, because obviously that's how this series is going to end.
Yeah.
Who is going to step up and fight? Who is going to be one of the fallen? It's going to be really, really, really interesting to watch this coming Sunday. But hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts on this past week's Game of Thrones? We did the Twitter poll. Everybody was giving it a B grade. Definitely hit us up. Let us know what you think. And what's your predictions for the Battle of Winterfell? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is the King of Lisle, Luke Visengard, Gladius 205 champion, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and I want to talk a little bit about Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Now, if you're not familiar with what's been going on, Swamp Thing is the next live-action show slated for the DCUniverse app. Now, if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you know I'm a very big fan of the DCUniverse. Titans I thought was good, and I tell you what, Doom Patrol is amazing. If you have not watched Doom Patrol, you need to get started, but let me give fair warning. It's not for everybody. It does go some different places, but Brendan Fraser as Robot Man is one of the best things on TV going, bar none. So obviously we were hearing about Swamp Thing, and it is coming out May 31st. And we did get a teaser trailer. Now, there really isn't a lot to go with the trailer.
Much like the character.
Right. It's just kind of he emerges from the swamp, and that's all we know about this.
I feel like that's all they want to go with, because, I mean, you saw what happened with the Titans trailer that dropped during San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
We've discussed this before. A bad cut of the trailer, it is what it is. But I feel like this is the smart thing going forward with a character that is so mysterious. And admittedly, he's had kind of an interesting past. He had some movie runs in the 80s. He had a couple, he's shown up in animated stuff in video games over the years. But, like, when you talk to casual comic fans and you go, hey, name me 5 or 10 DC characters, Swamp Thing's not exactly going to be high on the list. For some people, maybe.
For some people, sure. I mean, obviously created by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson in the 70s, and to see where he's gone in his different comic journeys. Scott Snyder has written him. Alan Moore has written a very definitive run of Swamp Thing, too. And more recently, he's started coming back into the public eye. He was in Injustice 2, as Pat was talking about.
Yep.
So to see him now get his own show for the DC Universe app, that was very telling. The streaming service, I should say.
Yeah.
it was very telling because I really applauded that they're taking chances on characters. Like to see a Doom Patrol show is one thing, but to see a live action Swamp Thing is another too.
Well, I think it just goes back to DC's wanted to do something with him for the longest time, because I remember when NBC had the short run, not very good Constantine series, the character Alec Holland, who of course is, depending on what run you're reading, is Swamp Thing or is part of Swamp Thing, got name dropped. Alec Holland got name dropped on Constantine, the TV series from a couple years ago, but obviously that was canceled before they could really do anything with it. And then I know that they've been trying to do a Justice League Dark movie for years, but that's been in development hell.
Right. We don't know if we'll ever see that in the live action screen.
Probably not.
Probably not, but I definitely would harp about Pat saying Constantine is very closely tied to Swamp Thing. We've seen Constantine on his own show on NBC, and obviously he's currently on Legends of Tomorrow, the character.
Yep.
So where Swamp Thing is involved in this is really interesting to see that he's now getting his own show. And like Pat touched upon, Alec Holland, who's played by Andy Bean, and Derek Mears is playing the actual Swamp Thing character, is the story of a scientist who's trying to find a way to, almost like develop botany to like the next level and do about regeneration. And obviously when he's not willing to work with wrong people about it, an accident happens and thus causes him to become Swamp Thing. And he becomes more or less an anti-hero, depending on how he's written and where you want to take the character from there. So obviously going in with this, there's a lot of high expectations for the show. So it really threw us off guard that production was cut from 13 episodes to 10, almost out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, Pat, let me ask you this. What is your thoughts on this when you hear a show is cut like this?
It's not, to me, it's never a good sign because, the company that is in charge of this can always see the episodes before they're done. To me, it almost seems like they're not very confident in how it's doing it. Now, it's not uncommon for shows, even on traditional TV, CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, to have a season and go, hey, you know what, this is doing really well. Why don't we order some more episodes? A little bit of a panic and a little bit of running around for the production crews, but, it's doable. To me, like I said, to me, it's a little concerning because they get the dailies, or the stuff they can see the stuff that was filmed that day. They can look at how things are going. They can even go and see how things are going. But it's almost, to me, as a fan of a show or someone who's excited to see a show come out, a red flag when they go, hey, that show you're really excited for, well, they stopped production and they're cutting 3 episodes from it.
Yeah, you can look at it from a couple different ways, and I think Pat just nailed one part on the head. Me, I'm going to take the aspect of, let's look at Iron Fist when it was on Netflix.
Sure.
Now, they just felt, the production and company, that they could have told a shorter story. Not taking anything away from the series, but obviously they felt the first season might have been too long, and me personally, I agree with. So when I heard this was getting shortened, I was in Pat's boat. I was kind of a little alarmed by this because we really haven't heard too much from it. I mean, the casting has been great. Ian Ziering is going to be Blue Devil. Okay, no, Google Blue Devil, and you can understand how excited I am about this character.
I'll say, look at Iron Fist, as an example. Like you said, cutting episodes from a show can mean one of two things, and this is, of course, before we know anything or we see anything. It can either mean, okay, we're just trying to cut some of the fat out. We're just going to slim it down and get point A to point B, no side distractions, no detours. Or it could mean, we don't really like what we're seeing here. Why don't we just cut our losses now?
It could be a lot of different things, and we're just really trying to speculate because as far as we know, the DCUniverse has put out some really good shows. Yeah. Like I said, Titans was a very refreshing, change of the original opinion I had of it.
Right.
It turned out to be a lot better than it was. And then Doom Patrol, oh my God, it's so good. I can go on and on and on about it, but watch for yourself because I can't do enough justice. It's just how well that show is. So obviously hearing this show is now getting cut back, and we haven't heard anything else happening about Stargirl, which is still slated to come out this year, or any of the animated series that are currently going to be running. There's supposed to be an animated Harley Quinn coming out, and the second half of Young Justice Outsiders. And we have heard, let me try talking here, that Titans has been renewed for season 2, obviously, and they are doing casting.
Yep.
I mean, they've casted.
I think they're getting close to filming.
Yeah, they're getting very close to filming if they haven't already started.
Because I've seen some stuff online about some of the stars, like, casually or kind of sneakily trying to tweet out or post out the photos of their new costumes or what they're going to look like, and it's like from the chin up, and all you see is like maybe the mask.
Right. So it's really interesting to see that this is all going forward, and yet Swamp Thing is getting cut back. Now, it could mean a lot of different things. We're just trying to speculate. And obviously, there's been a couple reports saying about the future of the DCUniverse app, and this is supposed to tie into it. And obviously, we do know that Warner Brothers is supposed to be coming out with their own streaming service.
Yeah, so this has been off and on for, God, it feels like maybe going on a decade now, because I remember years ago, a lot of Netflix, WB stuff used to be on Netflix. Like Law Abiding Citizen is the first one that comes to mind for me. The like WB movie, great movie, with Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler. But it got pulled off. I remember I was still in college. It was 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. All the WB stuff just got pulled wholesale, like end of the month. And it was like, I was like, why is all the WB stuff gone? And I started reading stuff. WB wants to come out with their own streaming service. Well, this has been going on and off for years. Well, it finally appears that they're going to do it because according to a Variety article, which is dated right back in October 2018, AT&T's Warner Media is going to be joining Disney, Netflix, and everybody else in launching a streaming service late 2019 or by the end of 2019. Now, we haven't heard anything about this. We haven't heard a date, price, this, that, but it kind of begs the question of what does this mean for the DC universe, because Warner Media, it's of course owned by Warner Brothers. It owns HBO, Turner Broadcasting System, TNT, CW, Cartoon Network, DC by proxy.
Right. And you would think that this might be a response move to Disney Plus.
Right.
Because obviously Disney Plus has a lot of momentum going forward to November and everything they're bringing to the table. So this could be, you almost want to say like a counterpunch.
Right.
That Warner Brothers is picking up some steam. Because this would also kind of imply that the DC universe might get absorbed into that app. Which, it makes sense if you really think about it. Because why would you have competing streaming services of the same product?
Yeah.
DC is owned by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
It would make sense to transition that over to Warner Brothers. And if this is saying that, obviously, if they are going to transition, which I have a feeling they might do. I really do. If they are transitioning over and they did not go fully all in, so to speak, on Swamp Thing, then maybe they want to do a shorter series and see how it does in the streams and go from there with it. We haven't heard anything else about any other shows getting canceled.
No.
To be honest with you, I have only heard good things coming from the DCUniverse app. They're now opening up more of their comics library. It's going to be over 21,000 if I read correctly.
Okay.
And they finally got an Xbox One or Xbox streaming, so you can watch the DCUniverse streaming service through your Xbox. So obviously, with all this stuff moving forward, it's kind of interesting to see it, that if they do get absorbed, this would almost be a step back.
Right.
But I don't really know if that's the case. I think with this, it's going to be more so, let's wait and see on Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously the character, like Pat touched upon, not really a household name.
No.
But I think if the streaming service, if the show takes off on the streaming service, the demand will be there, and I could see them definitely saying, okay, if they are getting merged into the Warner Media streaming service, which would make sense, then maybe they want to rebrand it, so to speak, and do some different changes. Not really sure what to think exactly, but it does bring up a good point that if Warner Brothers is going to want to compete, and if they're coming out late 2019, as the last report we read, then they're going to want to get loaded up with the DC content.
Yeah.
Because why else would you want to have all your DC character movies and cartoons on a different show? The only thing that'll be the real question here, though, is the comics library.
Mm-hmm.
Would they do it separately? Or how would that go into the fold of the Warner Brothers media? See, that's a very good question to bring in. And obviously, I know we're kind of jumping a little out of place with the shows here, but if the DC universe is going to get absorbed, and this is supposed to be the first impact from this absorption, we'll say, it's really going to be telling to see where it goes. I mean, this could definitely happen down the road, and you might see the shows get absorbed too. But I think if the shows are doing well, and I haven't heard anything saying the shows are not doing well in the downloads, then it's kind of a wait and see attitude for this. It's going to be really interesting to watch, though. But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on Swamp Thing's trailer? Did you like it? Did you not? And do you think the shortened production is going to hamper the show, or is it just going to be a transition period over to Warner Brothers? Or what do you see is the future of the DC universe? We want to know. Hit us up on that hashtag. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH. the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and obviously this week, the big event all over the world.
Whatever it takes.
Avengers Endgame is finally in theaters.
Oh my lord, and it's going to come hard.
Obviously. This has got so much hype behind it. You are starting to hear the ratings embargo has been lifted. So sites are starting to post ratings, so we are warning you. Please be careful if you don't want to get spoiled.
Well, so yeah, if you aren't taking the necessary steps of like not going into the comments of a news article posted online by somebody, going into Reddit, Instagram, whatever, like do it at your own risk.
Yeah,
because I've known people who go into the comment section for a completely unrelated article and something's there.
Yeah, this is something that we are here at the ODPH are strongly advising everybody.
Yeah.
Please be careful if you don't want to see spoilers, because they are unfortunately leaked. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad apples out there that are trying to ruin it for everybody.
Yep.
And just be very careful on what you're clicking on. Be careful on the hashtags, too, when you do a search.
Yeah.
Because there is hashtag don't spoil the end game.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people are trying to tag spoilers in that. So just be extremely careful when you're on your social media. Because this kind of goes back into our point of the segment. This movie has been Marvel's 22nd,
Yep.
I believe. The second to last one involving Phase 3.
Yep.
Kevin Feige has said Spider-Man Far From Home is the end of Phase 3.
Yep.
So that is the official end of Phase 3. So this movie has had years of build-up. We are finally here. Going into this, we've seen a lot of footage. We don't know what's involving. It could be all fake for all we know. Could be. I mean,
it could be.
This is one of the best teased films of all time.
They didn't even have to do anything to tease this film. Like, they could have just put out the first teaser trailer as like the Avengers theme song with the logo, and that's enough.
Yeah, it would have been enough. But obviously, after the job the Russo brothers did with Infinity War and juggling that many characters,
yeah, and in that far a amount of space,
yes, and delivering arguably one of the best comic movies of all time.
Yeah.
Arguably.
I would say it's this generation's Empire Strikes Back moment with given the ending of like, it's not a happy ending. Like, they don't come out of this for the better.
No. You hear the snap heard around the world. You start seeing a lot of the characters that you got attached to disappear.
Yeah.
Everybody from Groot to Spider-Man in one of the most dramatic moments of the film.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
No. And a few others to be named. And it now is up to the remaining Avengers to fix this, to try saving the universe. This is going in with so much hype. Pad, tell our listeners why you should go see this film.
Well, I think it's kind of easy to be said. If you have watched, not all of these movies, but most of these movies, because I know there are some people who haven't seen all of them, and there are ones that often get left out of, rewatches. If you've been at all invested into this saga, if you've seen some of them, like if you saw Infinity War, if you heard about Infinity War, and you ended up seeing it after it came out on DVD, Blu-ray, or whatever, if you have any inkling of knowing how this came out, how this comes out, how this ends, you should go see this, because this is one of the largest cinematic events in history. Not just for our generation, but of all time. It's the culmination of, like you said, 11 years of work and 21 previous films. Something that to this point, or to the point of in 2008 was unheard of. So, like, you could have a cohesive, overarching story for 22 films over 11 plus years. Like, it's just a masterpiece of storytelling that, if you've been in all, even if you haven't rewatched all of them, or you haven't gone and done deep dives on this and that, and like, you're just kind of going, you see the films, you got to see how it ends out. It's like going through the Harry Potter movies. If you go through the Harry Potter movies and you don't see the last one, you're kind of selling yourself short there.
Right. This is one that Marvel, from day one, has been building towards. And they've laid the blueprint out for doing a shared superhero universe that others have been thinking about trying. Some have actually tried and been mixed success, if I can say that right. Mixed success. This has been something that has been interesting to see unfold.
Yeah.
And obviously, they took a chance doing Iron Man way back when.
Oh, God, yeah.
It was not a certified hit. At that time, everybody just knew him as being on the Avengers and having some kind of success.
Let's say he's an A-plus hero now. Back then, maybe a B.
Maybe a B, I would say. And obviously, Robert Downey Jr. embraced the role, had a career resurgence from it, and has really made that character his own. That I don't know if they can do another Iron Man movie without him.
No.
They'd have to recast.
Yeah.
And it would have to be a completely different character.
It'd be real hard to recast.
It will be. And as you see with Chris Evans, embracing the role of Steve Rogers, Captain America, Chris Hemsworth making Thor into just a unique character in his own right that has been taken from the pages of Asgardian mythology to now is doing Thor Ragnarok, where he's cracking jokes and he's really taken on a whole new persona, that a newfound popularity, I think, would be the case.
Yeah.
And obviously to see where everybody else is unfolded. I mean, we now live in a world that Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy have been successful movie franchises.
I mean, it's also a world where these movies have had such an impact that you are seeing crossovers into video games. Last year after Infinity War, there, of course, was the short time event in the video game Fortnite, where if you ran on the map, grabbed the Infinity Gauntlet, you could turn into Thanos. When God of War was released by Sony Santa Monica Studios, you could get the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, it wasn't the MCU Infinity Gauntlet. It was kind of like the Infinity Gauntlet from Norse mythology type thing. But like the Infinity Gauntlet with stones that weren't exactly named after those from the Marvel Universe, but you could deduce they were, was put into God of War. Like, you're seeing crossovers in all sorts of ways.
Just the impact that these movies have made throughout the years, and just the success they've had, and just really just ran with it and gone somewhere with it, has been just something amazing. And to see that now the story that's been based off the Infinity Gauntlet comic, which was done by Jim Starlin, George Perez, and Ron Lim back in 91, to where we're going to see it head on screen. If you've read the comic, you probably have an idea how it's going to end, how Endgame is going to finish.
Right.
But there are changes because there are certain characters that are not involved.
Yeah.
We're not going to go through the whole thing of telling you Fantastic Four and X-Men are not involved. It's already been well established.
I'm going to say it. Fantastic Four and X-Men aren't going to be in the movie.
Yes. They're not going to be anywhere near this movie unless there's an end scene.
Nope.
That has a bonus line thrown in. That's the closest you might see. I don't think we're going to see it.
Nope.
But the comic is a very classic Marvel story. The movie itself, like I say, the reviews are starting to come out for it, and everything has just been saying masterpiece about it.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I think the Russos have set the bar so high that they have to have a perfect movie, or close to.
Yeah.
Anything less is unacceptable, because the fan base has been wanting this movie, and the teaser trailers have been enough to just appease fans.
Yeah.
Not really sell them on, what's going to happen. Because honestly, watching those trailers, and we've watched them and we've talked about them on the show so many times now.
Yeah.
We don't even know what's going on with it. We have an idea that the quantum realm is going to be involved. Mm-hmm. That's probably the only safe bet we can give you on the show.
I'll say the thing I keep reading is that all the TV spots and all the trailers have only been maybe the first 20 minutes of the movie, which, let's not forget, the movie's like 3 hours plus.
Right. This is going to be a true epic movie. This is going to be something that you need to plan for and just really invest the time in, because I think if anybody tries getting up to go get a soda or go to the bathroom, you're going to miss something.
I tell you what, if you want to do some, this is like no joke, this isn't me making fun or anything. If you truly want to get ready for this movie, find somebody who owns a copy of Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. Where Two Towers is, I want to say, 3.5 hours to 4 hours, and then Return of the King is like 4.5 hours. If you really want to train yourself for this movie, sit down for one of those movies without having to get up to go to the bathroom or anything. Like, that's genuine. Like, if you want to really get ready, because it's one thing where I remember going to see Iron Man 3 and I had to get up to go to the bathroom and I missed the Stan Lee cameo. That's one thing. That was a shame, but it's something else where, like, this is the cinematic event of our lifetime. Like, you hear that thrown a lot with movies and big expected movies and end of series and whatnot, but this legitimately is going to be a history-making film where, Hollywood Reporter put out an article today where Disney and Marvel Studios are projecting the film to have a projected global launch of somewhere in the neighborhood to $850 to $900 million opening weekend.
Yeah, this is going to be dominating your local theaters.
For reference, the highest grossing film on opening weekend of all time was Avengers Infinity War last year, which opened with just over $640 million. This thing is going to make $1 billion in less than a week.
It's insane to realize that this is happening.
And I think this is an all but surefire guarantee that the all-time record of Avatar, which is sitting at $2.7 billion, that record's going to get shattered into 1 million pieces.
It should.
Like, I know I thought Force Awakens might do it, but Force Awakens started strong and then kind of tapered off. If this thing's going to make $1 billion in a week, it's going to blow it out of the water.
It's going to be truly an epic time to go to the theaters and just be a part of history.
I was reading last night, AMC has got 17 movie theaters in their chain that are staying open for 4 days straight, so people can see this whenever they want. You want to go see Avengers and Endgame at 4 a.m. at one of these theaters? Go ahead and do it. The only thing I would say to that is, to not just those 17 theaters, but all across the place, be kind to the movie theater people who are working there. They're going to have the worst weekend of their careers there. You know, they're going to have a rough time. They might be a little short with you. They might be a little frustrated. It's not their fault. They're dealing with crowds of unusual proportions.
And we salute everybody that's going to be working at the movie theaters.
You are the real hero. To quote Kevin Durant, you the real MVPs.
Absolutely, because to deal with the crowds and just the rabid fan base that's going to be going on is going to be one of the more highly stressful times to go to the movies. But it's going to be so worth it. And just as fellow fans, too, don't spoil this after you see the movie.
No.
Be very kind to your fellow fans. Don't go crazy posting spoilers and memes. Give it till Monday.
No, longer.
Longer, you say?
I'd say 2-3 weeks.
Well, I'll say probably a week. I'll say a week. Because by this time, if they've already done $1 billion in ticket sales, chances are everybody has seen this out of the opening weekend. Give, take?
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, the moral we're trying to say is with this, Marvel has built this epic up. This has been the culmination of 22 films. This is going to set the precedent that you're going to be saying, I was at the theaters when Avengers Endgame was out. Be kind to your fellow fans who have not seen it yet or are going to be watching it later. Try not spoiling too much. We are going to be recapping the movie next week. We have our tickets. We're going to be there open tonight. We're all given fair warning. But we'll have spoilers posted throughout the notes for the podcast next week. But if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, just bear with it. Try avoiding social media. Avoid what you can, because when you do, you're going to be truly a part of history. So just remember, respect your fellow fans who haven't seen it. Don't go posting spoilers all over the place after the minute you get out of the theater. And obviously enjoy the film.
I'll say, don't be like the people when the 6th Harry Potter book was coming out and people were waiting like all day and all night to go get it. And then you get the people in the front of the line who went up and got the book, bought it, turned to the end of the book and yelled, "Dumbledore dies!" Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do
that.
Don't be those fans. Or like when Han Solo was killed off in Avengers or Star Wars Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And we happened to be at a local wrestling show, and somebody had the sign, Han Solo dies.
Which, that might have been legitimate, or that might have just been a poke at fun, because I know the spoiler was out by then.
Right. So either way, we're just saying, as you come out of the theaters, just be very respectful for the fans that have not seen it yet. Don't go crazy posting all the types of spoilers. Just keep it spoiler-free for the weekend.
If you happen to walk past somebody going in to see it, and they ask you how it was, give them a one-word answer. Great, amazing, incredible. Keep it short, one word.
Absolutely, because this is going to be that moment in time where everybody's going to react. Where were you when Avengers Endgame came out? We've already sold you on the movie, and let us know if you're going to see it. Let us know if you're not going to go see it. I actually want to meet somebody that doesn't want to see Avengers Endgame after seeing this. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on Avengers Endgame? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jimmy Gazdick from Crimson Brethren and Floodlands, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Kick us off with a one-shots, Pat.
Well, I got a couple of things. First of all, this week is a big week for Sony fans as the much-anticipated game Days Gone comes out this week. Now, this is the post-apocalyptic zombie game starring Sam Witwer, of course, from Star Wars The Force Unleashed, Being Human, the American adaptation, having a run currently on Supergirl. He is playing the character. Also, they modeled the character in the game after him. So this is coming out this week. I will give my thoughts on it on next week's show, although I will say the one thing Avengers Endgame is doing doing is messing up my picking up this game. Since it comes out this Friday, I would normally be able to pick it up Thursday night, but because we're going to be seeing Avengers Endgame, that won't happen. Oh well, it's for Avengers. I'll take it. Other thing is we got the final trailer for Godzilla King of Monsters. That of course is coming out at the end of the month. Creepily set to Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah,
it's not a creepy make by screen crawl, but it's just like, okay, this is a little creepy.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. Like every time I hear that now, it's sort of like when I hear I got 5 on it from us there.
Yep.
It was like it's the same kind of vibe. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, so of course it's the sequel to the I think it was 2015 Godzilla film. Of course, we had Bryan Cranston, and this one just looks to be all sorts of epic, where you've got Mothra and Ghidorah. And I think the interesting thing we gather from the trailer is it sounds like they've captured Godzilla. They've got him held up someplace, because there's more than one line where they talk about setting him free. So that'll be something interesting to see. You can check out the trailer for yourself on YouTube or Facebook or any of the social media platforms. It looks awesome, and it looks like they take the kind of destruction and mayhem of the first movie and turn it up to 11, because it just looks like everything possible is going wrong in the world with this.
Yeah, this movie definitely is going to be something to watch, and it really has like that big fight feel to the monster movies.
Yes.
And obviously they alluded to 17 monsters in this universe.
Yeah.
And we do know that Kong versus Godzilla
is next up.
I believe it's done filming.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read a few reports that they actually filmed them both back to back.
Right. So that is going to be something to see, and I mean, obviously this movie is just leaving a lot to be hyped up about.
Yeah.
So I am super excited to see about this. We'll be definitely covering it before it comes out here on the ODPH. So for my one-shots, now I have a couple. First, I got to kick off about Cloak and Dagger.
Okay.
Now, as Pat was alluding to, Thursday is throwing everything off with Avengers Endgame. Because I can't watch Cloak and Dagger live. But the job they have been doing this season is truly, truly awesome. The show has been hitting all its points. Mayhem has been such a refreshing character to see on the show. This past week, we kind of saw a little more interesting dynamic involving Cloak and the Dark Force, which if you follow the comics, you know that's what his power source is. And when Tandy goes into the Dark Force and deals with Mayhem inside there, and they're going through the different emotions and everything going on there. Meanwhile, on the outside, Cloak has now been exposed for being alive and on the run, so everybody is now aware that he is back, so to speak, especially the Uptown Block Kings, who he has been slowly ruining their operation, and now they find out who he is and where he lives. And now his family that he's been lying to, that he's been on the run for so long, he now has to come back and save, and it's just a really cool dynamic. And then as they keep going forward, like I said, inside the Dark Force dimension, Tandy and Mayhem are really kind of stirring up what truly makes the Dark Force dimension tick. And they really are digging into, it's like a trippy scene, to say the least, of going through Tandy's memories and just everything that's involving, and you kind of see what's going on until the big reveal at the end, which I will not spoil, but it threw me for a loop. It was very interesting because they really haven't touched upon it in the comic. I fully recommend get caught up on Cloak and Dagger, Freeform Thursday nights. Check it out on demand, because I can't do enough justice for it. The series has been so on point. Olivia Holt is crushing again. Emma Lahana is doing her thing, and Aubrey Joseph is really starting to dig into the role too. And it's just been really, really fun to watch. For my second one shot, Gotham is ending on Thursday.
Yep.
So the final episode of the retelling of Bruce Wayne's story on Fox is going to happen. This show really wasn't hitting a lot of cylinders with me.
We'll say first season, I watched first season. First season was all right. I kind of fell off by the end of it, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really didn't latch onto it. I'm surprised because I'm a very big Batman fan.
Yeah.
It just really wasn't hitting on points. But if you are a fan of the show, and like I said, this show has been very mixed for me, and I do know the villains on the show have been truly, truly something to watch. Is really going to finish off on a high note. I think that they've now flashed forward a little bit.
Yeah.
And he is going to be fully in Batman mode.
I'll
year
say
one.
Every teaser photo and everything I've seen on social media this past week has been him in the suit.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. And if you've been a fan of the show, definitely check it out. Set it for your DVR, because obviously with Avengers Endgame going on, if you're not going to the movies, or if you are going to the movies, rather, you're going to need to watch something when you get out. So Cloak and Dagger's there, Gotham is there, and it's definitely worth checking out. They'll be on Fox on Thursday night. And for my final one-shot, Pat, I have to say, Arrow this week.
Mm-hmm.
They're leaning to doing the one thing I have said since episode 1.
You're going to be unbearable if this happens.
Oh my God, yeah. They are literally...
He's been saying this for like 7 years.
John Diggle is Jon Stewart.
Well, he could be.
Oh, no. They have alluded...
They're leaning that way. They haven't come out and said it yet. They're leaning that way.
They haven't come out and said it, but they did introduce some family members of John Diggle, and you did see General Stewart make his appearance, John's stepfather.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, it's going to happen.
I mean, I could very well see, because I think they've started production on the final season of Arrow, if I'm not mistaken, or they're close. I do get the feeling that, this final season of Arrow, anything they could have possibly done or they thought about doing, they're just going to do it.
Yeah, and this has been such a great season, too. Arrow has definitely been CW's best show this season.
Yes.
Of the DC ones.
Yes.
Bar none. Bar none. Arrow is clicking on the right cylinders, and I expect a strong finish to this season. We do have some spoilers for next season, though, and next season is going to be a shorter season as well, too, so it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm just more excited that we might actually have a Green Lantern on the CW. Maybe. I know I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but can we just imagine if they decided to do a Green Lantern show?
That'd be wild.
Yeah, Jon Stewart, a.k.a. John Diggle, as the lead. Off.
That'd be good.
Sign me up.
That'd be good.
I'm all for this.
I'd watch it. I'm not going to lie.
I'd watch. Arrow has been, like I said, so
because
good.
Jon Stewart was the Green Lantern I grew up with, because he was the Green Lantern on the Justice League animated series.
Right. I mean, they've got so many things going on, too. And they even dropped a couple other smaller Easter eggs, too, involving the DC universe as well. Not the service, but the whole comic universe as well, too. So Arrow, definitely check it out if you haven't seen this past week's episode. It's worth checking it to get all just what's going on there. Because going into Crisis on Infinite Earths next year,
oh boy,
there's going to be a big stat quo change for all the shows.
Mm-hmm.
So get ready for that.
So I get the feeling, much like Endgame, not everyone's going to make it out of there.
Definitely not, but it's going to be really fun as fans to watch. That's all we got for this week. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Kenem. Thank you as always for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour #ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.